We're a nonprofit advocacy group for the St. Johns River.
And our mission is to help protect the river.
Hello, welcome once again to the St. Johns Riverkeeper Show. I'm Jimmy Ort, the St. Johns Riverkeeper Executive Director, and I'm here today with Shannon Blankenship, the Outreach Director for St. Johns Riverkeeper.
Thank you for having me.
Shannon, glad to have you as a guest. As you know, this is the most exciting half hour on public television, so we're excited to entertain you today and tell you all the wonderful things about the St. Johns River and about the things that we are doing to try to help protect it. I usually, and you know, I'm joking about that, folks out there, by the way. I don't know that I can even make that disclaimer because, you know, somebody else probably would challenge me on that. But anyway, today we're going to talk a little bit about Riverkeeper and some of the really exciting events coming up and some of the not so exciting issues, unfortunately, that are affecting the health of the river. And how you can get involved. But first, Shannon, a lot of folks out there may not be that familiar with Riverkeeper and who we are. Why don't you tell them a little bit about the organization?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks to everyone tuning in to the St. Johns Riverkeeper Show. In case you don't know, we are a nonprofit 501c3 advocacy organization, and our primary mission is to be the voice of the St. Johns River. Resources throughout the world don't have an active person standing up for them, giving them a voice, and since they can't do it on their own, the Riverkeeper or organizations affiliated with Waterkeeper Alliance work to provide a voice for those resources. So our Riverkeeper is Lisa Reineman, your St. Johns Riverkeeper, and she works primarily through the St. Johns River watershed in order to promote and protect the St. Johns River.
And one thing that's really important for folks to know out there is we are a privately funded organization. We are not affiliated with a government agency. We don't receive government funding. So we rely on you to support the work that we do. It's your contributions, your membership support. We are a membership-based organization that helps to allows us to continue doing this advocacy work for the St. Johns. So I'd encourage you, go to our website. Hopefully we'll have the website up on the screen at some point, and trying to see if we do it now. Nope, but we will get the website up there soon. And you can go to stjohnsriverkeeper.org, or actually you can go to sjrk.org, which is easier, and learn a lot more about us. We've got information about our membership program and how you can become a member, about the issues we're working on, more about our staff and organization and the different projects and programs that we're working on, because a lot of people don't realize we have a great outreach program that is under Shannon's direction. We have education program that our education director provides programming, develops programming for schools and for youth organizations, takes kids on trips into the outdoors to experience the St. Johns. A lot of things going on at St. Johns Riverkeeper, and so I would encourage you to check out the website and learn more about us and get involved, please, because it's up to you to support this organization and get involved if we're going to make a difference for the St. Johns River.
And another great resource on our website I like to tell people about in order to stay really up to date on some of these issues, because we have a lot of issues and we're constantly receiving new information, new comment period deadlines, new contact information and ways to get involved, is to check that blog page. Our blog resource is such a great location to see all of the most up-to-date information on our issues. And so anyone who's just wondering generally, how do I get involved with St. Johns Riverkeeper? What are the issues affecting the river? That blog post is going to be a great area, and you just click on blog right on the right-hand column, and you can see all of the most timely events.
Absolutely. And one of the issues that's been on the top of a lot of people's mind and been in the news lately is the dredging of the St. Johns River, the proposed dredging, I should say. As many of you may know, Jacksport, who is the local partner, the Port Authority, they want to dredge the river from what it is now about 40 feet down to approximately 47 feet deep for 13 miles from the mouth of the river to just, I think it's west of the Dames Point Bridge. So it's a 13-mile stretch of the river that would be 7 feet deeper than it currently is, to accommodate larger ships to bring in more containers into our port and increase the port activity. And of course, what the idea is also to increase economic activity in our region and more jobs. St. Johns Riverkeeper, we've been following this project very closely. There was an environmental impact statement that was done by the Army Corps of Engineers. It's a draft report, draft study on the environmental impacts to the St. John's. And we have some real concerns. As we've mentioned on previous shows, that the study has, in our opinion, is woefully incomplete. That there's a lot of missing information and a lot of questions that have been left unanswered to this point. So we're really pushing the Corps to answer those questions and make sure that we have the information to make an informed choice. Also, even on the economic side, we've been very concerned about that. And I know that this is a big issue. We actually had a forum not too long ago about it, and there's even a meeting coming up next week on the 24th, I believe, that the Corps is holding.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, JAXPort here, they're looking to compete with the Port of Savannah. The Port of Savannah has already allowed its terminal harbor to be increased to a lower depth, and some of these, you know, specific economic questions will come down the road. But right now, really looking at this environmental impact statement is going to be critical, because once the statement gets finalized, we don't have the ability to go back and say, wait, what about impacts to, you know, this species? What about impacts to salinity here? What about my, you know, specific property impacts and questions like that? People should really visit our website, check out the blog post about the deepening, find out what comments have been received from the EPA, from NOAA, Fish and Wildlife Commission, as well as from the St. John's Riverkeeper, in order to yourself articulate what your, you know, questions and criticisms are of the economic or environmental impact statement, in order to submit comment before it gets final and we're too far down the road and can't make changes.
That's right. And the good news is that the Corps, this is the second time they've extended the comment period, because we've said the public does not have enough time to analyze this really complex study. And also, a lot of the components of the study are not even complete yet. So obviously, that's a problem when you're asked to comment on a study that's not even complete. So they've extended the comment period one more time to October 24th. So you have until October 24th to submit comments. You can learn how to do that on our website. There's actually a meeting next week at the JAXPort cruise ship terminal. It's September 24th, I believe, is the date. And that is going to be a meeting in the evening. Check our website, we'll have the information, where the Army Corps will be presenting some of the findings from their study, and also an opportunity for the public to provide public comment. Again, some of our concerns are, as you go deeper, that means that you're going to have more salt water coming farther up into the river. And so we have real concerns about what those impacts might mean for wetlands, for the submerged aquatic vegetation, the grasses that are so critical to habitat, for manatees, for all kinds of crustaceans and animals that use it for a food source. There's also major concerns about the trees, and a lot of there's potential for a lot of tree mortality, especially in some of these tributaries like the Ortega River and Julington Creek, where you might see a lot of these cypress trees along those banks that are going to die, and which could affect erosion along the shoreline as well. So we have some real serious environmental concerns about the impacts, and so we're really looking at this closely, and a lot of those concerns you can find on our website as well.
Yeah.
So I really encourage everybody to get involved. Go check that out. Make your voice heard. We have our comments that we've submitted so far online. We have a great team of experts that are helping us as advisors to help us understand this issue thoroughly and make sure that all the right questions are asked and answered. And so get involved. That's one of the biggest things you can do. Another big issue that we have is Silver Springs. Seems like there's always a big issue, but the other big issue is Silver Springs. And we've talked about that as well on the show. Why don't you tell a little bit about what that issue involves?
Sure. So I think Florida waters generally right now have a lot of really significant threats facing them. Silver Springs in particular is this iconic spring that everybody can sort of think about, you know, what do Florida springs look like? The springs that make up the St. Johns River. How do we get our water? How does it bubble up out of the ground? And how does it end up impacting the St. Johns River? All of these springs right now are under threat. They're under attack. And so we have to get more people engaged and involved in wanting our state to take a stronger stand and wanting our water management districts to take a stronger stand, and then wanting, just our constituency here in Jacksonville to really think about how some of these water issues were either helping them or hurting them. And so my job as outreach director is really to try and get more people to understand these complex issues, and then to try and get them to want to stay engaged with us, so that when we need people to write letters to the St. Johns River Water Management District, either opposing permit applications or merely asking for more information for higher stringent standards of the law for some of these consumptive use permits, that we have you behind us. And so in trying to sort of understand this issue a little bit better and to get more public participation, we've done a host of different types of events, either aimed at education or aimed at having fun on the river, in order to get some people engaged. And so that's something that I'll talk about in a minute. But Silver Springs is an issue that I think is all really near and dear to us, and threats to Silver Springs are something that we should continue to get involved and engaged on.
Yeah, and a lot of we've talked about it on the show, but in case you're not familiar, Silver Springs is a first magnitude springs, meaning that's one of the larger springs that discharges one of the most higher volume discharge springs in the state. And this spring is located in Ocala, Marion County, and it actually flows up out of the aquifer. And that's the thing that we have to realize, is that the aquifer and our surface waters are intricately connected. That the St. Johns, about 20 to 30% of the freshwater flow is from springs. So what we do to our groundwater, what we do to our springs, is going to inevitably affect the St. Johns. The water flows out of Silver Springs into the Silver River, which is an outstanding Florida waterway, into the Ocklawaha, which is also an outstanding Florida waterway and aquatic preserve. And that is one of the largest tributaries of the St. Johns, and then flows into the St. Johns. So this is all connected, the Silver Springs being a part of the St. Johns River system, this whole watershed. Well, Silver Springs is under threat it's already under threat from reduced water flows. We've already seen, because of the groundwater pumping, that the flow has dramatically been reduced from the spring. That nitrate, the nutrient pollution that's in there from fertilizers and from septic tanks and wastewater, the nitrates have gone through the roof in the spring. And that's caused a lot of problems with algal growth, and we've seen some real significant ecological impacts to that spring. It's not the spring it once was. Well, now there's a permit application, and it's an application from a billionaire from Canada who wants to start a massive cattle farm right next to Silver Springs. And this would be about 15,000 head of cattle. He wants to take nearly 5.5 million gallons of water a day from the aquifer to irrigate his fields, and then it would also be heavily fertilized, so that these cattle can graze on that grass. And so this is an area that we just feel like is totally inappropriate for this type of activity. It's too close to the spring. It's going to increase. It's going to add further to the nutrient pollution problem, and it's going to further reduce the flow of those springs. So we've been opposed to that, and you can find out more information on our website about that. But we've got a big event coming up to help us to fight this permit and this effort to further degrade the Silver Springs.
Yeah, so Lisa's going to be at this event that we're going to have, and she can talk a little bit more about, Silver Springs, what's the water reduction numbers that have come out of how we need to work to protect these springs, and I think that this event is going to be a really fun one to get people to come out and want to learn more about this issue. We're having a low country boil. It's going to be at Sadler Point Marina on October the 3rd. And we've got live music, food donated from Black Hog Farm, some really good John Boat beer donated from Intuition Ale Works. The live music is going to be from this Frontier Needs Heroes, which is a really cool locally based band that's been in New York for the past few years. So we got them back, and we're going to get them here at the event. And then just a really great time to have everyone sort of come together here in Jacksonville. I think that people in Jacksonville don't always realize that the issues out there at the springs, the water supply issues happening in Central Florida directly impact the river right here in Jacksonville. And so bringing people out waterfront, having them realize, recognize, remember why they care so much about the St. Johns River, the way that it works, the way that it flows. This event is really just sort of that way to stigmatize, to reinvigorate those thoughts and get us all caring about our waterways again and wanting to remain involved on this issue.
Yeah, and it's going to be great. Like Shannon said, we're going to have low country boil. It's going to be local food. You mentioned Black Hog Farms. They're going to provide locally grown potatoes and corn and sausage. Actually, they raise hogs on their property. But there's also going to be local seafood. Shrimp's going to be donated from Fisherman's Dock Seafood, which they've been great supporters of ours over the years, and also provide the oysters for our oyster roast, which is another great event that we'll talk about later. But it's local food, local beer, local people.
Yeah.
We're going to have lots of fun. And we're also going to have a boat trip. Yeah,
the boat cruise, this is going to be an exciting, I think, sort of end to our evening, because we're going to be talking about the threats facing the St. Johns River. But that doesn't mean that it's still not such a great river to get out on and enjoy a relaxing boat cruise. The Jacksonville Water Taxi is out, it's active, it's running its stops through downtown Jacksonville. Take it for the Jaguars games. Jump on the boat. They're doing some great changes to the boats and fixing them up. And they're going to come out and offer a free boat trip to everyone at the Low Country Boil afterwards, so that we can get out on the Ortega River in the St. Johns. We can cruise through and really have a relaxing finish to the Low Country Boil. I think it's a great way to finish off that event. It'll be a good time.
Absolutely. And what we're raising money for, too, folks, is that one of the things we've done is we've partnered with the Sierra Club locally in Jacksonville to raise funds to hire the technical experts that we need and the legal expertise and assistance that we're going to need to potentially challenge this permit if it is issued. The permit for Adena Springs Ranch, that's the name of the cattle operation. Adena Springs Ranch there's actually been information requested from the Water Management District from the applicant from Adena Springs Ranch. They now have until December 11th, and I say they, Adena Springs Ranch has until December 11th to provide more information to the Water Management District. So the permit application is not complete yet. And what that means is that we still have time as a community to continue to make comments, provide our comments to the Water Management District. On our website, you can find that out. There's a link to our blog post about this issue, about Silver Springs and the threats to Silver Springs. Click on there and you can find out how to get your message to the Water Management District, because we need to stop this permit. As we mentioned, this is a massive cattle operation that's going to be located close to Silver Springs within the spring shed. This is a karst environment. What's that mean? What that means is limestone, very close under the surface of the soil, that is very porous. And when you put all this fertilizer and all this manure on the property, it can leach very quickly down into the groundwater. And what happens is that then leaches down into the aquifer or into the groundwater, and then that's the water that comes up out of those springs. So it can exacerbate this already existing nutrient pollution problem that we're seeing in the springs. The Department of Environmental Protection last year determined that they need to reduce the nutrient loading, the amount of nutrients going into Silver Springs and the Silver River, by 79%. That's the existing contributors, the people that are already contributing to that problem, the farms, the communities that live around there. So we already have to reduce nutrients to create a healthy ecosystem by 79%. This is just going to add more of that pollution to and make this problem much harder to resolve. And then, of course, the flow. And we've talked about that being, the flow of Silver Springs in the last couple of decades has been reduced by about 50%. So this is literally a spring on life support.
Yeah, and I think on top of that too, science is being done right now at the Springs Institute that shows that we need to reduce the amount of water in this area that we're drawing out of the aquifer by at least 50% in order to be able to recharge some of the amounts of water needed in order to continue to thrive in this area. Now, if we're trying to reduce our water consumption by 50%, if we're trying to reduce our nitrate loads by 79%, how can we allow a massive cattle farm to be placed in one of the most sensitive and critical areas in Central Florida? And so I think that's really the question that we're asking with this permit from the St. Johns River Water Management District, is how can you align these goals that we as a state have recognized and at the same time, allow this project to move forward. And so having a vocal community is going to be the only way that the Water Management District continues to really ask the hard questions to the property owner here. And I think we've seen some great success so far. Originally, and you can speak better to this, but originally the permit request was for 26.3 million gallons per day, which was reduced to 13.6 million gallons per day, which is now reduced to 5.3. And I'm going to mess all those numbers up. But
you're pretty close.
Yeah. I mean, the points were all. Don't write this down. And
well, you're correct though. It was over 20. It was 20 plus million that they originally wanted. It was down to 13, I think, 0.2 or something. But yeah, it was essentially a big drop in the request for the amount of water. And then they further reduced that recently, and I think part of that is due to public pressure.
It's absolutely due to public pressure. And so the more pressure we put on, I think the higher requirements are going to be put on the landowner here to ensure that even if this cattle farm does end up being placed in the spring shed of Silver Springs, there will be much more nutrient management controls on the property in order to protect our critical and iconic Silver Springs. And so I think that that's really what we're fighting for protection of these waterways, and then for recognition of the problems that we have in these waterways. The low country boil, it might be simple, but it's an easy way to get people out in order to show that we have support for these issues. Another event that we have coming up that really ties right in to protection of Silver Springs is our Rising Tides group, the Young Professional of St. Johns Riverkeeper. We're hosting our first ever overnight camping trip out at the Springs. It's going to be at Alexander Springs, which is close to Silver Spring. It's in the Ocala National Forest. But it's our first overnight camping trip, and I found through working with a lot of young professionals in the Jacksonville area that many of them have never been to Florida Springs. We think about them. I think people recognize there are manatees in them, but actually going out there, spending time overnight, sort of listening to the wildlife in the surrounding area, recognizing how many ecosystems and species and just the plethora of flora and fauna, the birds, the reptiles and amphibians, all of these things relying on these springs. It brings so much more alarm to the thought of clear cutting an entire area and putting up a grass-fed beef cattle operation. What are we losing? What are the opportunity costs in having an issue like this move forward? And I think also for a lot of us, one day having children and thinking that we won't have these springs to take our kids to, young professionals I think are really looking to get engaged in these issues that are going to affect our quality of life in the future. And so whether it's a low country boil or an overnight springs camping trip, both are up on our website and you can sign up for either. But any way that we can get people to really critically think about Florida's resources and what's happening is something that St. Johns Riverkeeper is looking to do. Absolutely.
And I think the thing too that's important, whether you're camping at Alexander Springs or you're at a low country boil and you're concerned about Silver Springs, I think these are really, the problem is that this is not just specific to one or two springs. This is actually a problem that Silver Springs, what's happening in Silver Springs is emblematic of a problem throughout our entire state. With waterways, not just springs, but waterways throughout our state, where we're seeing reduced flows. We're seeing nutrient pollution problems and algal blooms. We see that on the St. John's, where recently we've had some algal blooms. So this is emblematic, really, of a much greater problem, and that's why I think Silver Springs is so important, is because it is such an iconic spring. It is so historic. It was Florida's first theme park and one of its most major tourist attractions. People would come from all over the United States to see Silver Springs. And now to think about that it is in such disrepair, that it's in such bad condition, and that we are even contemplating causing further harm to this spring system instead of focusing all of our energy on trying to restore it and all the other springs that are impaired. I think that's why this is so important, and why this represents the importance of us getting involved and taking back our waters, which are ours. They belong to us, and we have a responsibility to make sure that they're protected. And so St. John's Riverkeeper offers a lot of ways to do that. Like I said, go to our website. You can learn more about some of these events. There's ways to volunteer. Shannon also is doing a great cleanup event coming up on McCoy's Creek, and that's an ongoing project you've been doing for over a year now.
Sure. Rising Tides, the young professionals, the St. John's Riverkeeper, one of our steering committee member, Alicia Smith, came to me after we did a massive cleanup on McCoy's Creek last September, a year ago now, and said, I want to start cleaning up more often. I want to start doing something monthly, because I really want to make a difference on some of these smaller tributaries here in Jacksonville, and get more people involved. And so we very quickly said, you know what, this is a great time to get it started. In all of 2013, every single month, we're going to go out and clean up McCoy's Creek. And we've had such a tremendous turnout for some of these cleanup events. The culmination of all of this is going to be this September, the 28th, at over 8 different sites covering the entire span of McCoy's Creek. We're going to have a goal of 200 volunteers out there helping to clean up. And if you want to know more about this event, it's called Mopping Up McCoy's, and the 8 different sites that you can help to participate at this month, and visit our website and learn more about where those sites are. And
this was a project that's also, y'all were already doing these monthly cleanups, but then North Florida Land Trust got a grant to help facilitate this and do even larger projects to help clean up McCoy. So this is a great partnership. You're working in tandem with another great organization, North Florida Land Trust. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, if you end up seeing this show after the cleanup, which is on the 28th, then there's still going to be other cleanups, because this is an ongoing project, and you can check our website and find out dates for the next cleanup to participate in, because believe me, McCoy's Creek has been so polluted and so much trash that this has literally taken a year to get to this point, and it's going to take probably, several more to clean up that creek and actually restore its health, which is also a goal, I know, of your group.
Absolutely, absolutely. We look forward to December. We're going to be right there at the end of the creek where it meets the St. John's River at North Bank Riverwalk. Get involved in any of our monthly cleanups, but we will be celebrating in December of 2013 when we finish this year on McCoy's Creek, and I think we'll be celebrating making a really big difference.
Well, and I think that's the thing that, kind of a lot of these issues can be overwhelming. Sometimes we feel like, it's out of our control, out of our hands. There's nothing we can do about these problems that affect the river, but we can. It's really up to us to get involved, and that's what we're really encouraging to do on this program and every program. We really feel like it's important. Get involved with our organization, but if it's not our organization, do something. Get involved with another group. Get involved with local decisions that are made that affect the future of the river, whether it be at city council level, the state level, and contacting your representatives. But the key is to get involved and make your voice heard. And I think if we all chip in and do our part, whether it's trying to reduce our own impact or addressing concerns for problems that are affecting the river to elected officials that maybe make decisions at a higher level, the key is that we take ownership of these issues and make sure that we have the people elected that are going to make the decisions that we need for the river, and that they're doing what they need to do to protect the St. Johns. So thanks so much for tuning in again. I encourage you to go to our website, learn more about some of the issues, learn more about some of the programs that Shannon's overseeing, some of our education projects, but there's a lot going on, and we hope you'll get involved, and we'll see you next month. nonprofit advocacy group for the St. Johns River.
And our mission is to help protect the river.